Another thing I would point out that I've seen a change historically is I believe that God is raising up for the first time in history of Utah what I would call an indigenous church. So indigeneity means that it's a church made up of people who are rooted in culturally, who are insiders in a sense. And so in the past, churches would come in, like I said, different factors brought churches in. Where I live up in northern part of Utah, a lot of churches, some churches were started when the Transcontinental Railroad was completed. And the town I'm in was like a big center of that. So it became, there were churches that supported that community. And then churches were planted, say, in Park City when the mining industry was going well. You know, that brought Gentiles or non-LDS people into Utah. And then churches, like I said, were planted in our area after World War II and the Air Force bases there and so forth. Churches were planted, say, you know, maybe this coincides with the early 2000s, but the Silicon Slopes development of technology industry in the northern part of Utah County and the southern part of Salt Lake County. So populations of outsiders came in. And that was, but those guys don't stay. They're not rooted here. They're not going to necessarily raise a family here. And so when I mean an indigenous church, I mean that there are people who are part of the church now who are Utahns. They consider themselves to be Utahns. They're not moving somewhere, you know, as soon as they can. Their kids are raised here. Their kids are born here and maybe raised here. And so they have roots here and an identification here. Now, not all of those people are former Mormons. Probably the majority of them are not, that have Utah identity, but increasingly we are seeing former Mormons become part of the church and even part of the leadership of the church. So I think that's a big, big thing, that looking at it from the spiritual history of Utah, the idea that God is raising up an indigenous church is not just dependent on outsiders to be the leaders and to be the financial supporters and all the rest.